Would you like this?
Yes, I love my tappy bear. Anyway, this bear was invented actually by the children of a good friend of mine, Till Schilling. And these little girls said, "Daddy, why don't you put buttons on a teddy bear to help little kids learn how to do this?" And what happened was I went to the home of this little child who was so painfully shy.
So the child actually came up with the idea to
A child, yes. And when I went to this little boy's house, when I walked in the door, the mother had told him that I was going to play with him with a teddy bear.
So if I understand you correctly, those buttons that you have,
they represent
the tapping points. So can you
points.
point out some buttons
Sure.
for our
Sure.
audience?
So one of the points is the top of the head.
Okay, so there's a button up there.
Yeah, and there is the eyebrow point, which is the beginning of the eyebrow closest to the nose, side of the eye, over here, under the eye, directly under the eye.
Now, would there be on both sides?
That's a good question. What's wonderful about these tapping techniques is that different practitioners do them different ways. Now, some practitioners will say, do it on one side, do it on the other side, it doesn't matter. One of the masters that I just recently trained with said, you know what, it's good to do it on both sides because then you're kind of evening out both sides of your meridian system. I do it either way. Basically, I always work with what is most comfortable for the person. But anyway, I just want to tell you about this little boy. I walked in the door, he was buried in the couch, facing the wall, and he had just told his mother, I am not going to talk to her, I'm not even going to look at her. And I walked in the door, and I said very quietly, Tappy Bear is scared. Will you help him? That little boy ran over to me, grabbed the bear, and I started telling him a story about how Tappy Bear was scared to go to school. Mm-hmm. And we started tapping.
So the child that identifies with the bear, and so he's really helping the bear, but in reality he's helping himself.
Absolutely. And the mother was standing there with her mouth down to the floor. She didn't think the kid was going to say hello to me. And he started telling me why he was scared. I said, well, why do you think Tappy Bear's so scared to go to school? And he starts, well, the day is too long and this and that. He must have listed 20 reasons why he was scared.
And so it gives a child an opportunity to vent and express
Absolutely.
Feelings, but he's not talking about his own feelings.
He's talking about the bear, and he's helping the bear.
Is that the bear's name, Tappy Bear?
Tappy Bear, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Go on. Is there more to this story?
Well, and that what happened was the kid told me all the reasons that he was scared to go to school, and we tapped on all of them. And we said, even though the day is too long for Tappy Bear, and then what we say when we're working with little children is we say, I'm a great kid. So he said, I'm a great bear. And then spontaneously he said, and I'm a great kid. So he's tapping on the bear and tapping on himself. We make it like a game.
And how long did this intervention take?
About half an hour. It's
beats several years or a lifetime full of psychotherapy.
Absolutely. And then the other thing is this little book that I put together with my wonderful little friend Zoe, who did the illustrations.
Well, let's give Zoe some credit.
Yes.
Zoe Morgan. She's 13. This book was done at age 11. Let's see if we can get our ace camera person to focus in. And so Zoe did all of these illustrations. So let me open up to another page. She is just awesome.
She is.
Yeah.
Very, very talented. And if you hand me the puppet, what I did was I created a character because one of the meridian tapping techniques that I use is called EFT, or emotional freedom techniques. So this is Edie the flying tapper, a flying squirrel. And so what I do is I read the story to the child, and then this is like a superhero who flies over and teaches little kids how to tap. So what's wonderful is then it's very interactive with the child. The child can have me tap on them, or I can show them how to tap on the squirrel. Or if the child is old enough and feels like it, the child takes over and puts the squirrel on their own hand and starts doing the tapping. And
is there any particular reason why you chose a squirrel over a dog? Or
I'll tell you exactly why. I said, I was talking to Zoe one day, and I said, you know, I want to do a little book. She says, how about a flying squirrel? I said, okay.
Yeah.
It was really that simple, you know, because she knew how to draw a flying squirrel.
Okay. Well, she's a very creative young woman.
Yes, she is.
Now, you know, let's say that young boy that you worked with, who was afraid to go to school, did that intervention last?
Yes, that's a very good question. One of the things that we do with adults and with children in a slightly different way is we say to the person, on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 meaning as upset as you possibly could be, 0 meaning, it's no big deal. Just arbitrarily give it a number. Well, an adult will say, well, okay, I'm scared at about a 7, okay. A little child, especially a kid who's as young as 4 or 5, is not going to grasp that concept. So what we say to a little child is, are you this upset, this upset, this upset, or not upset at all? And another wonderful experience I had working with a child at home was this little boy was scared of the dark. And I said, are you this upset? He says, that doesn't even touch it. He went to one end of his house and ran up the stairs to the other end of his house. He says, that's how scared I am. And so when I worked with him, I said, okay, you run as far as you need to run every time we tap and see if you feel better. And, you know, the first time he ran all the way up the stairs, the second time he ran halfway, and finally I said, you know, when you're not scared anymore, you won't have to run at all. And the very last time we tapped, he stood there, and I said, how scared are you? And that was to show me that he wasn't scared. And when a person, an adult or a child, describes that they're at 0, that problem is gone. It's hard for people to believe that, because sometimes I've worked with somebody who had a lifelong problem and it was gone in a matter of minutes.
What kind of lifelong problem was it?
The most extraordinary experience I ever had, which made me change the name of my practice to TAP, Transcending All Problems, was a woman who came to me who was suicidal because she had such a severe dental phobia. She had not been to a dentist in 40 years. Her teeth were beginning to literally fall out, and she couldn't even tell me. She had to write on a piece of paper. She couldn't say the word dentist. She said, I'm going to have to kill myself. I'm a professional woman. I make presentations. When this tooth falls out, I'm going to have to die. Well, thank God I had tapping techniques, because with traditional therapy, I might have convinced her not to kill herself. I could have never gotten her to a dentist's office. Her fear was too profound. And her problem was very immediate. So with tapping, I got her sitting in a dentist chair in 2 weeks. And I went with her, and I'm sitting at the dentist's office going, oh my God, this stuff really works, you know.
And did you ever find out what caused her phobia of dentists?
Now, that's a great question, because remember I told you.
My first thought was she was sexually abused. You're
absolutely right.
Yeah.
And what's wonderful about what's wonderful about tapping is that I didn't have to find that out or figure that out, and neither did she. What we needed to do was even out her energy so that she could be calm enough to go. And then once she was able to go, and I went with her at least a dozen times, because then we had to go to the oral surgeon to have her teeth removed. I mean, it was a big, big process. But now, several years later, she can go to have her dentures adjusted without any fear at all. And the very last thing that happened was she said to the dentist,